I would like to bring onto the stage my darling friend, Miss Elina Lin. Elina is a product designer, user experience designer for growth at LinkedIn. And we will have a discussion with her about, you want to sit there? Okay, awesome. Hi, Elina.
Hello.
Hello, we're here. We did it.
Wow.
We did it. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
So we'll start off. The reason that I think this is really awesome is because Elina was actually she was a volunteer maybe like 4.5 years ago for Cascade, and she went to school for mechanical engineering, and she completely hacked her career. So it was like, well, hack is like strategize, we'll say. And she'll tell you about how she did that. But I think it's really, really cool. And now she's working at LinkedIn. And just to watch her go from like, you know, from just starting out as a volunteer all the way to being a leader in the industry, I think is pretty miraculous. So we'll talk about that right now. Okay. So, Elina, tell me about your background. So you said you're a mechanical engineer, or you went to school for mechanical engineering. What brought you to become a designer?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I first of all, thank you for having me. It's really surreal to be here because I was the one who was just like, what are the design events in San Francisco? Where can I learn? Where can I be surrounded by people who have industry knowledge and can teach me something? And it was really cool to be seeing Andy give all these talks and bringing in people who had this knowledge. And then finally, like, kind of come full circle. Now I'm giving back to you guys, and hopefully whatever I have to share is helpful. My background in mechanical engineering really started from this like curiosity of how can I make the most impact with my skills in a way that is also enjoyable. And I think engineering was kind of what I knew at the time when I was applying for college. I didn't really know what a career was. My parents actually didn't never go to college, so I kind of didn't really have the resources back when I was like 17. But the internet was amazing. So I kind of just realized later on in my internships that there was this thing called design. And I kept asking myself, why are we making this? And so talking to people on the design team and then doing my own research, I was like, wow, this is something that encompasses not only what I loved, but also like the skill sets that I started noticing. I kept going on Photoshop. I was playing around with different software tools, making graphics, and thinking about the experiences that people were having instead of like how to make a product. So that's kind of an overview. I don't know if, yeah.
No, that's not. So you kind of fell into design accidentally, but you were like exploring the graphic design world on Photoshop and that stuff. Now, what about okay, so you went from being an intern to how did you land your first role?
Yeah, it was a very windy path, actually. Okay. I would say I fell into like UX design. I was always very fascinated by design. I just didn't know what it was. But when I came to San Francisco, it was kind of an eye-opening experience where I was just trying to be very engaged in the community of what's happening around me. And what was happening around me was a lot of tech. And so I would just go to these events where people were talking about innovation and how to build startups, and design kind of came through as like, oh, this is something that not only, it was kind of like this Japanese model. If you guys have heard of Ikigai, it basically takes a mapping of what is your passion, what are your values, and what are you good at. And the center point is like this Ikigai, which is Japanese secret of happiness. And so I felt like UX was kind of my Ikigai in some ways. And so from there, I was very intentional about becoming a UX designer.
So we also, that's beautiful. But we also talked about, so Elina was a volunteer for Cascade, and she took all of my favorite pictures of myself. So that's why she's here.
Very photogenic.
No. Oh, come on. I end up throwing most of the photos away that people take. So, and all the ones that you take, I'm like, ta-da! No, they're great. But also, so we also connected you with Cooper Design, and then you took a bunch of classes with them. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I think there's a lesson to learn about generosity, because I think I was just volunteering because I loved it. And also I felt like it was very fulfilling. I was giving back to community that was giving to me. And Andy offered this opportunity of taking photos for a UX design firm, Cooper, who is founded by Alan Cooper, who created like the concept of personas, and they were offering training courses for experienced designers, and they were pretty pricey. So I was
like $5,000 for like anywhere from $1,200 to $5,000, but they have like really awesome like workshops for a day or 2 or 3. So we did a deal with them for So go ahead.
So it was really amazing how I was just volunteering and giving back to Cascade and the SF design community, and to be able to have access to these classes and surrounding myself with people who are many, many years into design and learning from the best. That was incredible. So thank you, Andy. But I learned through a series of classes, and then that also allowed me to build some very great relationships with people. So I would say
you also took photos for them in order. So
that was a key part.
That was a key part. Is that Elina is resourceful enough to where she basically she went. I guess we can call it escalated her design brain and her learnings by trading photography for classes. So it's like a good lesson for y'all to, if you have something to offer and being generous, it does, you can find a way to trade and make things happen for yourself. You don't necessarily have to have the funds or anything like that. You just need the passion and the motivation.
Right.
And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And it was also just looking at what are things that I already do? What are some skills that I can offer? How can I think I was running through a list of questions of like, how can I be most valuable to people, and where can I plug myself in communities that were supportive and engaging and educational?
Awesome. That's awesome. And okay, so let's talk about your first, was this your first job, like real full-time job, was at Simple Habit? Is that correct?
Oh yeah. So I probably didn't answer your question.
That's okay.
So at the time I was volunteering, I was just debating if I should go to some sort of school for design, a master's program, or even a trade school. And I think I was a bit risk averse to just quit my job as a business consultant, which is another story. But I ended up doing a lot of side projects after work, and I wanted to take myself really seriously. It wasn't just like, this is a hobby. So after work, I would kind of burn the midnight candle, like working on projects, and it didn't even stress me out. It was just like, I can't stop doing this. Like, I just want to keep designing. And I did a lot of these side projects, and one of them led to a company. It was basically a 2-person team, no users, no one was paying, and eventually grew to something that was like, oh, wait, we have users, we have people who are paying us money, and we need to build a team now. And that was Simple Habit. So it was really interesting to go on that journey.
That's awesome. And you also grew the user base to 2 million users, which Elina did with her team.
Yeah, so it was a team effort.
Yeah, but it's pretty impressive for your first like full-time role to be that effective in design. I feel like it's so what do you think your primary skill that gets you what is your primary skill that you're most passionate about, that you feel like you owe to your success in design?
I wouldn't say I'm like a shining example of success or anything. I think what I have been very consistent with is I would say growth mindset, or my attitude towards growing, because I kind of had imposter syndrome all throughout college, and that helped me feel comfortable with discomfort and like being okay with not knowing what's going to happen, or like jumping into situations where like it's very unsure, there's a lot of uncertainty, but the acceptance of like, everything is going to be okay. And the magic in software is that it's forgiving, that like we can just rewrite the software, redesign it, and then learn from our mistakes and then keep pushing and keep improving. So I think having a growth mindset of accepting that there will be mistakes, but as long as you learn from your mistakes and you're constantly trying to think about how you can improve, you'll eventually get to point B of where you want to be. And having like a vision for yourself, having a North Star, but also being okay that the North Star might change based on what you learn about yourself along the way. So I think that really like maps well to being a growth designer, because a lot of the product we build, we have a hypothesis and we are constantly iterating and experimenting, but the value is really the lessons that we learn from the experimentation. And so that's why what I love so much about working in design and software design and being on a growth team is that it's just constantly learning and constantly seeing your product improve. And a lot of that maps to real life too.
That's awesome. What a great answer. Great. I'm like, let's all take that in for a second. Oh, okay. So anyway, what was I going to say? I don't remember. We're going to bring the rest of the team on stage now, because I just wanted to feature Elina. Everybody give it up for Elina, because she's amazing. She's amazing. And I watched her like go from being a volunteer all the way to this particular, to being a growth designer. And you're kicking butt. So great job. Great job.